Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today.
All men must have some physical culture, or else we will not be well. It is absolutely religious. It really must be spiritual. When we're in the zone, we feel timeless. Through that timelessness, sometimes with the depth of physical culture and deeply committing to it, you get a third-party observer feeling. We are almost floating outside of yourself. And then with that comes the wisdom that this is all temporary. Even our bodies are temporary. The hope is that we find our training and discipline as a vehicle into some of that wisdom.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together.
How you doing there, Pete?
Yes, brother. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. Can you hear me, my man?
You sound perfect, brother. Absolutely perfect. Thank you so much for your time today, my man. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. After we have our great little pod, I'm going to get into some training, so I'm happy, my man.
That's probably one of the big equalizers for me mentally. I mean, that's maybe somewhere I wanted to ask you, actually, man. How's your body feeling since coming back from Vietnam? Because you're kind of hard at it almost every goddamn day when I'm seeing you.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Interesting. I got the pictures. You know, we saw the pictures back.
Yeah.
That lovely Pete Dad's was taken. Mm-hmm. Well, I had rings set up there in our barracks. And so every other day I was hitting the rings hard and muscle ups and strict pulls. And then we had a couple heavy dumbbells. And really I was doing my training for the mental health and for the equilibrium, because, out on task, it's up and down and sideways. And then we're engaging with the elements itself. Vietnam was the first obstacle. Regardless of the task, regardless of the pace, the jungle itself was alive. It was almost a sentient being that's freaking bringing so much pressure and wet and hot and so much dehydration, because you're just sweating continuously. And so when I'd get up there just to calm down in the evening before we would go into the mirror rooms, I would get a 30-minute workout. Sometimes it would turn into an hour. Well, holy smokes, brother, by the end of that dang series, my arms, my shoulders, they were so freaking strong. I really thrive. I really thrive when I'm on task. When we're out there on course, I think it switches on a gene expression from all of my time in the forces. And
is there a counter cost to that, though? Like, because you're so at home in that environment, how do you cope when you're not in that environment?
Well, brother, that's so this is what happened. I came back home and my body kind of freaked out, like my nervous system, everything. I started, eating continuously, eating. And then I noticed I started holding lots of water. My body, now that we're getting older, I never noticed these effects before when I was younger. But now my body takes the physiology takes time to adapt. And so now I'm finally back to myself. I went right into another production after I got off of
I
SAS.
saw that. Jesus, man.
I went right into another production, and it was all hosting and working in a studio and receiving
Total change of
information
gears
from my teleprompters and then blocking the scenes and it's a wonderful program that you'll be seeing on the History Channel in a couple more months. And I was still with that wonderful fever of expeditionary living. So I was training hard at the hotel there in Williamsburg. I was working 12-hour days on set, which is really thrilling. And finally, though, brother, I finally just crashed after being home for about 3 weeks. Energy levels dropped. Injuries, tendinitis.
This
everything.
is what I wanted to ask you about.
There's a cost.
Yeah,
there's
man.
a cost.
And that
There's
cost
a cost
is what
to
I feel
extremity.
like is caught up with me. My body has written checks when I was younger, taking crazy substances, doing shit I shouldn't have done. But like as we get older and perhaps a little bit wiser, and this is something I wanted to ask you because our bodies carry those scars, those injuries, and you speak so strongly about that sort of warrior spirit. But is it more than just a physical thing? Because as we get older, we know we got to train smarter and not just harder. And especially like for people that have lost limbs or had setbacks or injured themselves in the line of duty, how do we enable them to still achieve that warrior mindset that you speak so passionately about when society traditionally just glorifies us for those tremendous physical accomplishments? Is it more than just a physical for you?
It is absolutely religious. It must be religious. It really must be spiritual. And, when I really get into my zone, how I describe it when Jade and I are working out, or sometimes, just knowing she is upstairs in the office working while I'm jamming my music and hitting my Hindu push-ups, I get spiritual with it. And it becomes transcendent because from our perspective, we're older. When we're in the zone, we feel timeless.
Yes.
But through that timelessness, sometimes with the depth of physical culture and deeply committing to it, you get a third party observer feeling. We are almost floating outside of your
body,
self. Yes. And then with that comes the wisdom that this is all temporary. Even our bodies are temporary. And that the hope is that we find our training and discipline as a vehicle into some of that wisdom. And that's where I'm at now, brother. And it's interesting, yourself, myself, the DS, athletes, movie stars, our physical presence. It's got a gravitas, but that's just the surface. What it takes is such a deeply religious and spiritual commitment to self-improvement and training and doing the right thing, even when everything in your life is saying, take it easy, or let's not do anything today.
Well, that's for me where the smarter aspect comes in, because I need it as an anchor. It's a bit like when the fucking storm is thrashing in my mind, I almost need to reach out and grab hold of physical discipline like it's an anchor.
Yes.
And just go in the gym, and it's almost like it allows my mind time to compartmentalize things and sort things out whilst my body is engaged in something else. Otherwise, it feels like I've got no anchor sometimes. And I'll be honest, that's where the physical side has been a bit of a trick, because I say, oh, it's discipline, it's this, it's that. But more than that, it's actually a bit of a crutch. I think if I didn't do it, I would suffer far more.
I agree with you. Well, then we could maybe even reframe that discussion into not a crutch, but medicine.
Yeah.
It could be medicine for the soul. It can be medicine for the injured conscience and the injured
the injured conscience.
Because we tend to, if you've been on this planet for a while and you've pushed to the edge of extremity, then you will have made mistakes, and you will have hurt yourself or hurt others, or you've made errors in judgment. And I think when we take this medicine with our a daily gift of discipline, it gives us some healing and some perspective. And that is the real hope. You know, us old freaking ironheads, brother, the real hope that we shine down on the youngsters coming up is that this will be a piece of medicine for them to have some perspective and maybe make some changes in a positive way in their life as they are committed to making changes in the training or the gym or the competition, as they're trying to improve that it will have a transcendent effect, and they will start to try to improve other aspects of their life. That is my hope for me, and that is what I try to express and share with the world.
You mentioned your good lady there. How big of an aspect is it? Because some people will see what you do and they'll see the things that you engage in, and they will see other people out there. And how much of the value of association, as in the people we place ourselves around, how much of a factor do you find that is? Because some people will look at this and they might get all motivated and they may see what you do, but then they turn around and there's someone in their life, a friend, a colleague, maybe even a loved one, who is not engaging in the best version of themselves. Have you ever had that? And like, how have you dealt with people who are perhaps not on the same path as you? And is it important to have people around you who are trying to live their best life?
Yes. You know, I was a bit of an outlier when I was a young person. I was just always enthralled with manhood and strength. Probably because my childhood was very difficult, and I was quite neglected and abused. So I was enthralled somewhere, somehow. I got this gift when I was small.
Was that the absent father thing? Sorry to interrupt you. That absent thing, because
yes,
just go there for a second for us, because Vietnam was especially significant because your dad was actually serving there when you were born, right?
Yes.
But you never really got any time with him.
Yes. No, you know what's so fantastic, again, as I have got some perspective, how we are born and the magic that we're even here. Like sometimes when I'm hurt and I'm fatigued and it's go time, instead of me saying to myself, I have to do this, I say to myself, I get to do this. Yes. I get to do this. This is a pleasure that I get to do this. And where I was born, the psychotropic and emotional force field of where I was born was really Vietnam, because the after effects of that war, I am the living, breathing byproduct of combat and the after effects and the cost of that, which oftentimes the destruction is not left just on the battlefield. No. It is brought home by the warriors. Yes. And so my biological father, he did 2 tours in Vietnam, Marine Corps. He, on his second tour, developed a hell of a heroin addict habit. He was a heroin addict, I guess, his whole life. And yet, so let me back up. His last name is De La Yata. And my father's side were prestigious, educated ranchers and business people from Mexican. Whoa. Not American, Mexican. And my father looks European like myself. He's Spanish. They have green and blue eyes and taller than most Mexicans. And he ran away from his family because he wanted adventure. He wanted to be a badass, and he was always the toughest. Yeah, he was the toughest boxer in his town. He was the best horseman. He was the daredevil. He was a young Rudy Reyes. He was a young Rudy Reyes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the call to adventure and the call to face fear he was attracted to it. However, it eventually, he flew too close to the sun, was burned, and he came back home. And because my biological father, his family is quite wealthy and educated. Like, for instance, my cousin was the district attorney of Austin. I have a little sister who's now, I don't know, 35 maybe, and she's a medical doctor. My uncle is a professor at University of Texas. A couple of other, all my family's really educated and really high up there, right? So they were able to hide my dad away. I guess he never worked again in his life.
Really?
He was in a state of sadness and depression, and always drugs, and it was kind of a shame, I guess. Now, I never got to meet him. He died when I was fighting in Afghanistan. I didn't know I had a different father until I was 12 years old, and that was very hard to deal with. So when I came back, or when he came back, same. I relate so much to this man.
Yeah.
He didn't want anything to do with my mom. My mom was from a very poor family in America, right across the border. This is South Texas, but it culturally and energetically, it's Mexican, especially in the 60s and 70s. And he didn't want to be with my mom. My mom was so in love with him. She was only 16. I think my dad was 23 at the time, and savagely ancient by 23 when he came back. Yeah. And that hardness, darkness, and I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I understand that now, because that's what I went through ultimately when I left the forces. And he didn't want anything to do with my mom. And then the man, Rudy Reyes Sr., who is in love with my mom since they were in grade school, he was a Marine as well, and he wanted to be a badass. And it was a chance for him to upwardly mobilize himself, because it was very poor down there. So, you join the forces, you get training, you can get education, and you learn in a very, very intense space with people from all over the world how to get things done. So he came back from Vietnam. My biological father went down to Mexico, and who knows what happened to him for some time. And he said, with me in my mom's stomach, he said, I love you, I'll marry you. And so Rudy Reyes Sr. is the real father I have. And I only got to live with him, and they were only together for like 3 or 4 years, just enough time to have Michael and Caesar, my 2 little brothers. And it is the pride that my dad, Rudy Reyes Sr., when I look at his dress blue uniform and his photos from Vietnam when I was small, it inspired me, this heroism, this archetype of the hero's journey. And then he came back home, and he became a policeman, and in his uniform, and I would help him clean his brass that you put on in the old days before it was anodized, brother. Everything was brass, right? Your name things, your wish, everything, right? And he's in Texas, so I'd also shine his boots, and it gave me great honor. So I'm of 2 fathers, and they're both Vietnam Marines, and they both brought the war back home with them. My Rudy Reyes Sr. drank quite a bit, but most importantly, was a workaholic. His drug was work and violence. He loved whooping ass. He loved beating up freaking criminals. I remember one year, he was renowned for high-speed car chases, and he would always throw his car into the freaking perpetrator's car and send it flying. He wrecked like 3. Yeah. And that kind of savage, reckless combat behavior, I understand now, because I went through that when I got back.
That recalibration just does so much. Behavior probably comes back with you.
Oh, brother, all of it does. And what we're finding now in our veteran community, and especially, we thought the special operations community, people like myself, people like Billy, Foxy, Chris, we thought that because we're so highly trained, skilled, educated, and are working at the tactical and even strategic levels, that we would be above falling into the typical tropes of PTSD and depression. But that was not the case. That was not the case. All of us, it seems, have much to deal with when we finally come home. Many of us never come home, meaning we can never give up the gun. In my country, we do a lot of private military contracting. I was a private military contractor. That was my methadone. That was my drug.
Your transitional.
That was my, that was my transitional drug. And guess what? I was still a violence addict. I was still an action addict. That didn't work either. So I was doing counterterrorism in Northeast Africa. I was running full mission profiles here and special black sites in America for bomb squads to prepare them to fight in Afghanistan and Iraq. So I didn't really start becoming myself, discovering myself, my essential self, till a few years ago. Just to a few. So I'm 51 now. It took.
This is what excites
years.
me so much, and this is what I thought when I saw Foxy as well. When we think about those chapters of life, because you joined the Marine Corps at 27, you did a whole host of operational skill set, and I was just looking back through some of your records, like many tours of combat during your career, medals, 2 acts of valor. You had enemy encounters. The 2 ones I read for your acts of valor was a 1,000-yard sniper kill, and the scariest one for me was this RPG close quarters thing. And it kind of made me think about how we glorify those things. And it's wonderful that the people have the skill sets to undertake those. But do we have a real, because you say some people never come back, do we, and I include myself in this, as much as I'm in the emergency services, I am a member of the public. I don't travel abroad and fight these hostile enemies. Do we really have a true understanding
but you're still
of the cost?
But you're still in combat environments.
We are, and they've still experienced a tremendous amount of trauma, but
brother, it's interesting. So I've gotten very close to my firefighter and police organization since I've been back, and EMS. We recognize that all of us are frontline people, and now it's becoming much more in the social conscious, people discussing about the immense impacts and after effects it has for your crew and your teams of frontliners here domestically, because the physiological systems in our body and our psyche, it makes no difference whether it's in Iraq or Afghanistan, or if it's in the UK or in Kansas City, Missouri. Combat stress is combat stress. So physiologically and mentally and in our psyche, it affects us the same way, and therefore it can damage us in the same way. It has to have an effect. And now I believe I'm doing my best to frame this as the heavy is the head that wears the crown. It's up to us to be the kings, first in our humble lives, and then in our community, and then ultimately to our nations at large. It's up to us because we have the experience and knowledge. We have the cost. We understand the cost. We understand the long way home, and we understand the brothers and sisters that look like they have it all together on the outside, but are inside either dying or a ticking time bomb. All my combat, I was just talking with a great brother of mine, Jason Lilly. He was so our 20-year anniversary for the invasion of Iraq is in May.
Oh, 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years from the invasion. And I was in Afghanistan in 2001, September, October, the towers were hit. I was on a ship, and I went straight into fight from there, Pakistan and Afghanistan. And then later, after the invasion, I fought in Fallujah and Ramadi, which was the most bloodthirsty, most heavily kinetic region in the entire world. I don't think there's any place that's been like it since Hue City in Vietnam. Um, so there's so much that is in my mind, my body, my nervous system, my soul. And for a long time, I didn't even know how to begin to face it. I just thought I was just going to be different forever, and that I was just going to be a savage and a cold savage for the rest of my life, and that I would have little flashpoints of happiness, because that's how I was living. I got back and I was a workaholic, just like my dad, coaching, training, and competing in martial art. And then HBO called and wanted me to teach and train the actors. And I thought, wow, this is a place I can put all of this passion, rage, and fear, and all this fear, because I have so much fear that I'm not good enough anymore, that I don't have 4 other brothers with me with freaking assault rifles and machine guns and rockets and close air support, and I'm not wearing body armor every
That's
day.
it, isn't it?
So I was
when you make that like 90% of your personality, what happens when, because you left, why did you choose to leave the military? Because it was such a huge part of your life and your history and your family. And
I'll tell you why, brother. I was talking to Jason Lilly yesterday, and after, so MARSOC was created because of us and our actions in Iraq. And I was such a successful team leader by then. I was tapped on the shoulder, and my commander said, Rudy, we want you at MARSOC. We got this new Special Operations Command standing up. You're our guy. And I love Recon. You know, I still love Recon so much. You can see it. It just freaking exudes from my pores. But that day, I was doing, after incredible amounts of blood and guts, brother, for 7 months straight, blasting into people's homes at 4 a.m, kidnapping people, just a typical Tuesday, overt patrolling, taking some contact, killing a few freaking people, running to the river, blowing up some explosives that they've left there, moving on to the next freaking ville, setting up a sniper hide, hitting a few freaking enemy that night, surreptitiously extracting, and now we're on a helicopter doing a hard hit somewhere else. This is what I was doing continuously for 7 months. I even did undercover operations where I was bait, dressing as a contractor, dressing as a worker at the laundry, to go into these little taxi cabs where the foreign nationals that would work on the base, they would have to go to another barracks, and the Mujahideen and the Tangos, the terrorists that were trying to shut us down, it was wisest for them to just kill the workers, right? You keep killing the workers, the workers aren't going to want to
just cut off the blood flow to the camp.
That's right. And so I would be in these taxi cabs because I'm Latino. I could pass as a Turk. I could pass as somebody from Pakistan working there, and I'd have my machine gunner hidden in the back. We cut out the back seat, so it's the big space of the trunk is open, and he'd be hiding back there with his tiny machine gun called a SAW. It's short and small, but it's belt fed 5.56. So it bursts. An easy freaking day is 400 rounds controlled in a minute.
Fucking hell.
And then I'd have other teammates hidden in the back of tractor trailer trucks, and I would lead myself out to be bait, to draw out our enemies. And mostly who we were fighting and killing first were Iraqi police that we had armed and trained, that were taking money from the terrorists to do this work. And the reason why we were doing it in this way, we did not want to drop bombs and waste villages and kill a single innocent person. So I was putting myself on the line, my teammates on the line, on a daily, and giving the enemy the best chance they had at killing us, so that we could kill them close quarter and then take their phones or collect information from them, and then do signals intelligence, and then hit them with direct action raids at night. And we shut down these massive terrorist networks and shut down the IED threat, the explosive threat there for some time. So this is what I was doing, and I was in it, and actually a sense of levity and joy in between. We do training missions at the barracks, this old Republican Guard barracks we took over, and we'd work out. I mean, we were just excited about getting our ramen noodles and tuna and freaking lifting weights and going
There's
on
almost a
operations.
beautiful simplicity to that. I've heard people
It was so
compare to when they
simple.
retire. They're like, the complexity of and the fuckery of normal day life. When you're out there, it almost becomes this barbaric Viking simplistic lifestyle. Not saying that it's easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it almost, you have a sense of purpose and identity, which sometimes people lose.
Absolutely. It is simple. It's direct. Your left and right lateral limits of existence are very narrow. And we had no idea that living that way and then galvanizing your whole physiological and physio-spiritual system to that way of life, that it, without a lot of work, it'll never go back. So yes, for fighting, and this man, when I killed that RPG team, I mean, they had me dead to rights. I'm looking out my window here. They're just across the street. There was a canal in the middle, and the canal's so deep you can't drop your Humvees through there. So in this area of Fallujah and the outlying villages, Karma and Amaria, these other little villages, the roads are high up with these steep embankments, because down below are where they have their fields that they grow their agriculture or have their goats, and it makes it very difficult in the daytime to not be seen, even with only a small team. So this RPG man shot the RPG, boom, and I was so exhausted. I just got off a 3-day sniper mission. It was freezing cold. I was still so freezing cold. It was the winter time, and interesting enough, right? That's where I get extracted. I still got vegetation and candy paint all over my face because I was in the reeds and in the canals. I'm extracted. We're moving to our next bump spot, and as we're driving, I'm on the radio. I'm very, very tired. I got my comms actuator on my right shoulder, so I'm touching it with my left hand, telling my commander what I see. And I see 2 black figures on my right flank running. And I can tell in a millisecond that they're not men. They're small. A woman and a child are running to this little shed, this little house where they live, running there. And I just clocked that. And then I looked over my left shoulder, and there were 3 men at a vehicle, parked vehicle. And then boom, and that explosion's first the RPG leaving. The RPG is flying to me, but we do not have roofs or armor in our Humvees except these little half armored doors, so that we can always be looking outboard and jump out and fight. And the RPG went right behind my head and right in front of my heavy 50 cal gunner up top, and the smoke trails were right behind us, and it hits to my right side, boom, blows up, and I just immediately just say contact left. My vehicle spins and herringbones outboard. I jump out of my door and throw my weapon up, and I start pouring fire into these men. And then my 50 cal gunner above me, that 50 cal weapon, so powerful, so much kinetic energy. And we have something called slap rounds, and they have a tungsten tip penetrator, I think every 4th round. And it just hits that vehicle and explodes in such a beautiful way. It was just so beautiful that everyone was in awe. And the hood of the vehicle is flying up in the air. I'll never forget it. And it's the smoke tendrils are flying with it up in the air, and the flame is is now coming back and the concussion's going through. And I now see another 8 fighters laying down with their weapons because they're all looking up at the sky, at the smoke and the hood flying. And there's a pause. It's probably only 1 second. To me, it was a whole minute long. And I send a report on the freaking radio. You know, we got tangos in the prone, and then we all just start working them. And we chop our way through those 8 or so there. Boom, 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 boom. My machine gunners are going heavy, and it's in the morning, so it's daylight, and we've got to bounce our way back, button hook around and zoom back the opposite way. We've only got 4 vehicles with us, all heavily armed, but no armor, and we're compromised. And now we're getting hit from both sides, and we chop our way out of there, brother. And lead's flying everywhere, and it seems chaotic, but we're doing everything exactly how we always do it as we train. There was nothing unusual. We did everything as we rehearse and as we train and as we've had experience before. And then you know what? I mean, I got that medal. Like, my captain was so legit. So in recon, our team leaders are enlisted, like myself. We have a captain that makes sure that we're all taken care of. Okay. Make sure our jump pay, dive pay, or danger pay, or demo pay is all going through, and getting the freaking intel from higher to formulate our missions. And my commander was a grunt commander who just came to recon and just became a Recon Marine. So he was so fired up, and he really leaned on me and really loved me. He, I guess when we got back to the rear, he typed up that order, or that warrant for my commendation. I got that thing months later. What I'm saying to you is that that was just another morning in Fallujah, brother. We got back, we refitted, we refueled, just like we teach you all out there on task. I did an ECR, which make sure I'm up on all my gear, all my equipment, get my round count, get more ammunition, get more explosives. And then we were out again. We were out fighting later that day. It was a very, very kinetic environment that required full commitment. And that's
so
how
many
I lived.
things
And that's
that
how
I want to
existed.
ask you about that. Like when I'm hearing that, my mind goes in a million directions. But it's like, so one thing. Let's go here first. Like, I was reading some statistics recently that only 10% of military will ever see combat in their entire career, and we see this certainly with emergency services, that actually they attend such a colossal amount of incidents. But I always say to my crews about that operational readiness and the desire to drill, the desire to train. And when people say that, we don't attend as many incidents anymore, I always try, as rough as it is, you try and use the military as an example, because only 10% will see combat in their entire career, yet, like you were just alluding to there, their drills are tight, their self-discipline is on point, they always have that reset ready, they're always ready to go. How do you help other people, or how do you convince people, or how do you sort of motivate people to stay operationally ready, either in their general life, even if they feel like they may never need that skill set? Because the day you need it, it's too fucking late then. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, especially now, after you've left the military, but you still live a high-paced life, and you have to have that operational readiness to go and to seize these opportunities. Talk to me a little bit about that discipline that people in the military and the first responder community need to maintain in being operationally ready, just in general life.
Yes, well, Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman to ever live.
The Book of Five Rings.
He said, "A warrior does not." Yeah, that's it, baby. A warrior does not get ready. A warrior is ready. So there is a state that we pursue in readiness. Our physiological aptitudes must be ready for the job. Our equipment must be PM'd, personally maintained for the job. Our communication and camaraderie with the unit must be prepared. Also, what is most often missing when men, especially men, think of this, recovery and sustainability must be addressed too, meaning there must be a rest plan. As we are
That's the
drilling,
difficult bit.
we're training. It is the rest plan for sustainability is critical. The rest plan. So I implement it in my life as my rest plan is when I go to sleep at night. And that means that I prepare for the rest plan by not having any caffeine for a few hours before, doing some deep breathing and a little bit of Tai Chi and some Qigong, petting my cats, playing with my dog, throwing the ball with my big German Shepherd, which keeps me engaged, but also the joy of seeing my dog running back and forth, and then spending time with Jade. And we cook at night, smelling the garlic, smelling the onions. All of this starts bringing my vibration down a little bit, because if I don't, brother, I can't sleep. And then I still obsess about war in one way or the other. I'm obsessing about my martial arts. Even as I'm going to sleep, I am in hand-to-hand combat, or I am in a fire and maneuver situation, or in an emergency situation. I've helped a few people in my life because of my skills and training and such. I've saved some lives. I've been a first responder, and so I'm constantly in this space. And then as I fall asleep, sometimes I'll still punch or kick, and I'll kick the bed, or I'm fading on the couch and I'll kick the table over, because I'm still there. And then I don't really sleep well. My dreams are, and still I have really heavy dreams. But when I think about manicuring that rest plan, because the work has been done and my personal administration and my kit is in order. And these days, my kit is my meetings with my agent and my production team, my meetings and admin work I do with my taxes and my accountant. This means also manicuring what kit I'm bringing to my next mission. Am I doing a photo shoot? Am I doing a workout? Am I doing, like I was just at Winter Strong? Will I be in tough terrain with lots of rain and utilizing firearms? That's all done. That is my day. My training first is for my spiritual readiness. Then I get into my physical and material readiness. And then as the evening approaches, when I am home, I get into sleep readiness. Do you get what I mean? That's what works for me.
So hard to maintain that discipline for certain people, though, and they feel like, some of them feel like it's a net. They're like, but I'm not a military person. I'm not operating a war. But those disciplines, those self-disciplines, I feel like they translate, as you so articulated there, they can translate into whatever it is you do, whether you're a mom, whether you're a freaking accountant, whether you're, whatever your profession might be. Gaining those disciplines early in life because so crucial to just maintaining that structure. Otherwise, you're just fucking reactive to the world as you go through it. You don't have that plan. You don't have those cut-off times. You don't have those resets. You don't have those backstops that, at what point am I going to turn around and no longer pursue this thing? You've got to have those self-disciplines as well. And I find that so fucking hard. I hit that reset button mentally a million times a fucking day because I find myself getting drawn into this sort of mindset where if I don't do it now, or I don't get it done, or this opportunity, or time's going to run out, and that's, how do you balance that mental guilt of like, oh God, I feel like I haven't done enough. Am I fucking ready enough? The opportunities that I'm missing, especially now in the world of social media, people see everyone kicking ass, taking names, and living their best life. It can be very difficult for people not to feel like they're not doing enough.
Yeah, that's so interesting too, and I hope I'd love our audience to really reflect on this for a moment. That remember, with media and social media and all media, it's been manicured. Yeah. It's been manicured. It is not real life. It is an aspect or manicured, positioned piece of life. It is not real life. It is not the it's not the atomic weight of life.
No.
It is that it's just
It's the highlight reel. It's not the backstage. You're not seeing the real thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would, what works for me, and what's so wild, Pete, is that I'm kind of famous now,
Yeah.
And
Just a bit.
isn't that wild? Yeah, a little bit famous, and I've been renowned. I've been renowned in the Marine Corps, and I was a kickboxer and a high-end martial artist before I joined the Marine Corps. Many gold medals. Was a great fighter, although not exactly a warrior, because never in my fighting and martial art was I thinking of killing. There is a responsibility that a man or a woman, but specifically men, we pick up a rifle and we go to fight and kill for our country. It's a grave responsibility, and it changes you. I now have to, I kind of accepted that I've been a leader for some time in this niche community of veterans and brothers and sisters returning home. Now I am doing the same kind of work around the world. It's a double-edged sword, brother. I have become less active on social media because my heart and my soul is so very open. I have learned, as you said, about the backstop, and as I've talked about left and right lateral limits, those are your boundaries. I've had to make those boundaries. I've had to fortify them, and I've had to reconsider where they are and why they're there. And why they're there.
What am I not going to do? Yeah, and that's where, for you to become disciplined. Otherwise, you just become the busy fool. You're entertaining everybody, but not really achieving anything. You're not making a real difference. You've got to agree. What am I not going to do? What are my boundaries? What am I about? What are my morals? What are my values?
What are my morals and values? What is your connection to God? Where is your hierarchy of being? What is your reason for living and your reason for celebrating life? A touchstone of that is necessary daily. I do it all day, all night. Up here in the office, Jade's got all these beautiful photos from her childhood when she was a little baby, and then some photos of me from my early Marine Corps days, and then with Force Blue and our friends. I've got my library here with some of my favorite books and some trophies and things like this. I get to this touchstone to remember the core values and the spiritual hierarchy that got me here in the first place. And for that reason, I'm not on social media as much, especially with the posting. I'm the kid that my buddy, a SEAL brother of mine, Jeff Gum, says, I'm the king of repost. And there's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about that. And I'll tell you why, Pete, for me, where I'm at in my life. If I say to myself, if the work and what movement I'm making in the world is at such a high caliber, then I will not have to think about recording myself. The work itself will draw people to record and talk about it. And that way I keep out of that very frightening and damaging narcissistic place that many people are falling into.
There, brother. Yeah. And there's almost a freedom. I always say to people, there's a freedom in discipline. I mean, because people say discipline and they think it's something that's imposed upon them. But I always say the more disciplined you are on yourself, the more you have freedom, because you know where those lines are, you know where those barriers are. And when you have the discipline to stay away from something like social media, I use a system that puts it out there for us, because I know, honestly, I don't have the mental capacity to exist in that world, because it wouldn't be healthy for me. And there's something to be said for people like yourselves who are actually out there getting shit done. There's a lot to be said, and there's a lot of value in somebody that doesn't just pontificate and talk and whatever, but is actually there doing the stuff. They are not just fucking talking the talk. You are there fucking living it.
Yes, brother. I think that's the most effective way. If you want to change yourself and change the world, make sure that your actions and your thoughts are in a direction that make quantum effects. Quantum effects I had no business plan when I started all this. You can believe, brother, I didn't think I would live day to day. I had no idea that all of that time in combat, remember, some of my men were killed. Some of my men are horribly wounded. I had no idea that in 2005 that I would be here with you doing podcasts and then doing military selection programs that are really a therapy for human beings, expression, and to find themselves, and what you do by the impact of SAS on you, what ripple effect you are making in your world. It is a quantum good. Now, I didn't prepare myself for this. What I did is I prepared myself for me in here. How do I live and respect myself? How can I find joy again? And as that came back to life, as my life came back to life, and it started first when my son was taken from me, because I was so strung out. I was doing lots of hard drugs and street fighting and hanging out with Hell's Angels and drug dealers, because they were the only people that would take me. And in between that, I would still go out and do missions. And then when I'm on mission, when I'm on course, everything's fantastic. Life is fantastic, clean, sober, dedicated, motivated. But coming back home would always be nothing. I'd have nothing. And so I went to court. I lost some work, had a restraining order against me, had to go to court and fight. I spent a lot of money. Had to do a year long of therapy to prove that I could see my son again. I was very close to taking my life, when they took him away. And I had my pistol in my hand. I'd just come back from court. I didn't even live in St. Louis, where I'd have to go to court at. And then I was contemplating right then and there, I am finished. I am useless. There's nothing left inside. And I have become everything that all the pain and all the damage of the people that damaged me as a boy, all of the sadness and depression and all of the apathy I had become. I could not take it. And I grabbed that pistol, and then I just felt this voice. And it wasn't in words, but God told me everything's going to be okay, son. Everything's going to be okay. And in that saying, in that feeling, I said back, well, I'm going to do my part. So I called my brother Caesar. I said, come on over here, get all my guns. I freaking threw the cocaine in the freaking toilet and stopped drinking right there. Slept for about 2 days, started working out, started coming back to myself, and said, okay, I'm on my comeback. I am on my comeback. And then shortly after that, we started Force Blue. Force Blue gives me a mission. We rebuild coral reefs and do ocean conservation with commandos that are the best. Yeah, brother. The best combat divers and amphibious warriors in the world. We now use our skills to rebuild and protect and create. And then I start coming back, brother. I start coming back. And then I meet Jade a couple years after that. I've got some career work happening too. I'm doing some modeling. And then immediately I say, all right, Jade, we're in this together. And I got us a place in LA, full commitment. That's it. Something happened. It was a tipping point. And I said, I'm fully committed to bringing my life back to life. And there's a lot more in the tank, brother. You're just going to have to let go of some things.
Yeah.
You're just going to have to also address some things. And since Jade and I have been together almost 5 years, it feels like 5 months because it's been such a rocket ship. I had a job, brother. Right before the pandemic, I had this rad series. I'd already done the pilot. It was really special. Everybody's wanting to get in the Rudy Reyes business. It's about 4 years ago. And then the pandemic hits. Everything's gone. Living in Los Angeles, it's very expensive. It's probably like living in London. I'm barely making ends meet. and 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 then finally all those freaking I got the bill for all those checks I wrote on this body, and I had to get a knee surgery. I tore my knee from a hardcore parachute landing fall, and then I continued to operate in Fallujah. I was in a firefight on a roof, jumped off the roof, landed, and I thought I was, I had light kit on. It was only like 70 pounds because that's light. I can carry 200, 250. So I land and I feel this little pop in my knee, and I just tuck my shoulder, roll out of it, get back in the fight. But it was just a small meniscus tear. I was so strong and young, I didn't feel it. Well, now at 47, it starts aching because I'm training, I'm teaching, trying to make ends meet, and then I can't move my leg. Then the swelling's behind the knee. Now the pain is all the way through the hip and shoulder, and I had to get a surgery. And so now I have no job, surgery I can't afford. I can only and these angels, when you're aligning yourself the right way, the right people are there for you. And there's a legend. His name's Gunnar Peterson. He's a legend coach trainer. He created the term personal training.
I've seen Gunnar
He's
Peterson.
Stallone's coach.
He's trained. I was going to say he trained Stallone, didn't he? Yeah.
Brother, I know Stallone now. I know Stallone. I'm blessed to be friends with Stallone now because of Gunnar. Gunnar and I are very close. Gunnar reaches out to George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre reaches out to his surgeon in Beverly Hills. And brother, this Dr. Alatrosh, the best knee surgeon in the world, brought me in and didn't charge me a freaking penny.
Really?
And he fixed me up. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was healing for 6 months, doing tons of rings, like, super upper body. But I did so much that, of course, I got freaking wrist tendonitis for the last 2 years.
This is what I was about to say. Like, honestly, mate, the past fucking 4 months for me, my fucking shoulders of my rotator cuffs have started flaring up because it's all been battle ropes, fucking pull-ups.
Exactly. I'm there.
Because you still have that daily addiction. You still, like I just said earlier, you still need to grab hold of that mental clarity that comes through physical discipline, but your fucking lower body's not working.
Yeah, brother. And then and don't make the mistake like of course I jumped right back into it a little too fast. I was feeling great after 6 months. And so I decided, what do I decide to do? I'm just going to go out and do 20 sprints, but I'm going to warm up with 50% and then move up to 70%. Brother, my body was so out of balance, and I'm fucking blasting sprints. My hip flexor on the other side freaking tings, everything, because I'm trying to jump right back into
the hips. I feel like I've been fucking dragging. I've had muscle wastage on that right leg, and now I'm training for a marathon at the minute, and I'm like, fucking hell, though. Like, I feel like I'm dragging my foot sometimes, like it's not lifting as much as it should do because that hip flexor is just atrophied so much. It's fucking so annoying.
I used to, sometimes I rarely go to a gym to train. I always train outside or at my house. I got a mace. I've got heavy dumbbells, only one set of heavy dumbbells, 70-pound dumbbells that I do my cleans, presses and such. My bench is the corner of my couch. I just drop back on that and blast some chest. I use my dumbbells also as my push-up bars to do dynamic push-up knee tucks, mountain climbers. I've got some bands, and then I got my rings.
That's where I need to get a bit smarter. I'm still a fucking knucklehead, like shifting too much iron. Like I was a professional strongman for a short period of time, and I'm still trying to pull the stitches away from that mindset where I feel like I need to be shifting really heavy fucking poundage. I've done that. Tick that box. I need to let that bit go. But how did you manage that discipline? Because the condition you're in now and the time and investment that you've put into your body to make sure it can go for another 10, 15, 20 years, that's the bit I want to hear about.
That's the goal, brother. Well, I say I've got another 10 years, at least 10 years as an action hero, and I'm 51. So when I'm 61, I'm still going to be an action hero. And that being said, my training has to reflect that. So lots of mobility.
Yes.
Isn't it beautiful? Training is so beautiful that even some of the same protocols and or exercises that we've done for 30 years that you can still actually get better. Like you can still feel some fibers in a new way.
Yeah.
You can still feel some recruitment. And then pretty soon, what works for me is I train my body as a system, as my miracle vehicle of consciousness. So I start with pranayamic breathing with Hindu push-ups.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I can do them slowly, and that's a deep stretch into the hip flexors and into the psoas, and squeezing your pecs at the bottom and arching your back, keeping your spine mobility. And then you shoot your hips back, and you can shoot them slowly and recruit with all the abdomen, or shoot them fast and go fast to get heart rate up.
Even though I studied it years ago, like learning the different ranges again that I can do stuff where before it was just pounders, whereas now it's like time under tension. Do you know what I mean? Putting my body in, I want to say, vulnerable positions to get those stabilizers firing, and you still get a colossal workout, and you haven't got to be throwing around fucking stupid weights and hurting yourself.
Absolutely. Well, you know what's us men, our brains and psyches are developed this way. We're very object oriented.
Yeah.
We are very goal and object oriented. No wonder we thrive with weights.
We're very linear thinking. We like the fact that we can see the progressive metric, because one plus one is 2, and then 2 is 3 and 4 and 5. And we understand that metric. And that's why, like, even just like when I told you about my shoulder mobility, I've been doing timed hangs. I don't know if you ever do that on your ring, just like trying to stretch out my rotator cuffs. And just, if you can hang for 90 seconds, fuck me, you're doing well. Because I'm still like 17 stone, still trying to cut myself down. But the strength I build in my shoulders and my arms just through hanging, like you did as a fucking child, just hanging from a fucking bar.
Yes, brother. And you know, I'm always working my strict muscle ups and variations and levers and all this such. I do such advanced stuff in a lot of ways. And then, I don't know, it hit me when I was doing SAS. Why don't we deconstruct these big movements and attack each piece alone? So I'd hang from my rings, shoulders completely released, and just squeezing grip and turning elbows in with arms still straight, keeping a little bit of tension in the tris so that I'm not actuating with bicep, and with scapular movement, pull the shoulders down. And it's only about 5 inches of work, right? Shoulders up by your ears, and now you pull. Yeah. And then when I would work my chin up with those rings, instead of bringing doing the chin now with the rings at the chin, I said, why stay there? How about, since you have range of motion, bring those elbows tracing the lats and serratus till they're at the lowest point of your body, which is closer to your hips. Now my chest and face is a whole 8 inches above the rings, and I was grabbing with intercostals, the insertion of the lat, the top of the pec. I'm still learning. And so as I'm doing these, now my strength overall is so much better because I chose
holistic
to
physical resiliency is much better. You don't have those weak spots. And when I was at my biggest, fucking 24 stone loaf the muscle, I had so many weak spots that I didn't realize. And that's when I tore my lat, I tore my pec, you know, I prolapsed disc in my back, because it's like a floor and you've got hollow boards everywhere. And you don't realize it until you end up stumbling and stepping on a board, and you fall straight through it because you're only strong in one dimension.
That's right. Look at it this way. Look at it and receive it really positively. It's a breakdown to break through. This is a wonderful opportunity that you have to address either movement or attention. Sometimes we are not being attentive. And that's what's so amazing about training. You're in your 40s. How old are you now, Pete?
I'm fucking 33. I just, because I took all those drugs,
you're 33.
Like I'm in my 40s. I'm a fucking baby still.
Okay.
This is what I'm saying. Brother. I'm looking at you, mate, and I'm like, fuck. Yeah, I've got 30 years to keep going. I need to sort this out.
You do. Yeah, you do. And you can even surpass where I'm at because you have roads and insights that I didn't have at 33. Now, I am still, you can hear it just talking about this simple protocol in the rings. It's got me fired up. My energy is up. I'm pacing, I'm pacing in my office. My energy's up. And that's I here in my office, I've got some of my figures, my action figures. Then I've got some combat dive and Iraq photos, and I've got some paratrooper stuff. And I'm looking at all these things that a young man or a teenager, if our teenage nephew came in here, he'd just be like, wow, that's what I want to be. And that's what I feel. I say that's what I want to be. You know what I mean?
But there's also that fact that you've still got these chapters to write. Do you know what I mean? Your story's not over. You are still in.
Yeah, it's not. Absolutely. That's it. And there's nothing like physical training discipline to be strong and fast and supple.
Yeah.
Nothing for a man and women athletes too. But remember, their brains are and psyches are a little different than us. All men must have some physical culture, or else we will not be well. We will not be well. And it makes you a gentler person. It makes you a more compassionate person. It makes you more empathetic. How many times, I'm sure you've seen it, brother, when you go to your training hall or your gym, when you see somebody that's out of shape, but a beginner or even a middle-aged or older person trying to take on their health, they have more courage. They have more courage.
Mate, it is a scary environment, and you think, wow, for someone and I'm so excited for them, because those first few months of training, they are going to have so much acceleration, so much fulfillment, so much mental and physical reward and payback. And that's the exciting time. That's why I know when people come in, they always say it's the best time to plant a tree was 5 years ago. The second best time is now. So don't, if you're 20, 30, 40, 50 listening to this and you're like, fucking hell, yeah, it's all right for you. And no, this is the time right fucking now. Today, literally today, just fucking go outside. Even if you're going to do 2 push-ups, do 2 push-ups, run up and down the garden, and tomorrow go for 3. And you will be so fucking excited, and you can fucking track it, and you can whatever. There is so many ways for you to make progress in life if you have that vulnerable. If you're willing to be vulnerable, because like you said, going into those environments can be scary as fuck for people.
Yes, and they in our gym culture, it can very easily become very shallow. It can be very shallow because as men, as people, and especially as men, we size everybody up. We size ourselves up. We, for good reasons, want to improve. But the dark side of that improvement is that if we are better, we will look down at others. If we're not as good, we're scared to achieve and feel low self-esteem. Either way attacks the ego and creates it creates a malady. And it's wonderful though, if all of my super stud men and women out there, all you athlete warriors that I'm talking to right now, just remember and feel a piece of that joy when you see beginners or people coming back from injury, or when you see
the mentor to them that you wish you'd have had when you first walked in there. Be that gift to them, because that's what they fucking need.
Brother, I live in the South right now, and there's a lot of obesity out here because these base drives of people. The people out here are wonderful, are beautiful. They're not fancy. They are real American, beautiful people. And the base drive not checked, now that you're making enough money and we don't have to work physically anymore, they tend to either overeat or overdrink beer, right? So when I see these overweight people walking these streets, pushing their freaking their baby on the cart, when I see these heroes that are taking a step to address something that's got to be very difficult on esteem, on health, when they're out there, they are my fucking heroes, and they inspire me. And if all of my superstar athletes out there listening to this, just remember that you're an inspiration to people, and to feel a piece of that joy and give back to those people.
Because ultimately, when they enter those environments, it's almost like they're raising their hand and going, you know what? I think I fucked up somewhere. I lost my way a little bit. I've done it for good reason. I've looked after my family. I've grown my business. I've done whatever I've done, but I took my finger off the pulse of this. And that is tremendous
Yes,
vulnerability, and acknowledge that and
it is.
recognize that in that person and go, it's fucking okay. We've got time. We've got time. You're here now. Don't worry about what was yesterday. Don't worry about the last 5 years you've fucking buried your head in donuts. You're here now. So let's fucking move from here
Yes,
forwards. I
yes,
would say if you
yes.
look at a man like you could be, then the possibilities are endless. If you look at him only as he is or only as he was, then you're dooming him that the past will always be the future. And that's not the fucking case at all. Your past is not your future. You're writing your fucking future now.
That's right, brother. That's right, brother. You nailed it. You nailed it. And this is, how about this is one aspect of social media that's been really good. There has been so many groups together for veterans and first responders, firefighters, police, moms coming out of childbirth, and people that want to address their health. They come together and they're sharing and training, and not just holding each other accountable. This is not a schoolmaster slapping you with a rod because you didn't do something. What it is that people are inspiring and motivating each other. CrossFit did very, very good with that. It initially addressed why we are so successful in community-driven professions and intense community-driven professions like EMS, like military, like firefighting, like police. It's because we're together. We're together. And there's
but it's remembering that
built.
bit that I think people struggle with, because like for everyone that enters a gym, and CrossFit has been wonderful for many things, but some people look at CrossFit and they say, I want to be strong, and that's great. And they look at you and they look at the people in the first responder and the military. But for every person that says they want to be strong, I usually think there's 1,000 of them that just want to look strong. And actually, the way somebody looks is just an accidental manifestation of the physical disciplines and the mental disciplines. If you just chase wanting to look strong, you will fucking be building your house on sand. That you're missing the big fucking
that's
goal
right.
here.
That's right. And you'll be missing the spiritual house.
Yeah, you'll miss all that fulfillment.
How many people, brother? Yeah, how many people have I met through the last few years of my life, since my career's come back and I travel the world working to improve people's lives and to improve my own? How many people who are actually even a lot younger than me are fans of mine, and then they say to me that they used to be this or used to be that. And why it was a used to be, it's because the spiritual house was not built as well. They were building a physical house. They were building a superficial house. But the spiritual house of why am I driven to be a better being and a better human and be stronger? What are the reasons for my pursuit? If it's just something cosmetic, it's not going to be enough for the freaking hard times of life, for the freaking real ass kickers that are going to come, the divorce, or the freaking failing of business, or the freaking knee surgery, or the freaking loss of your mother or father. The surface cosmetic house will not be enough to weather the storm. But if you build your training in a spiritual house, it will always stand the hardships
that is
of
so fucking true. And that, honestly, just being honest, that is exactly what I did. I went down that fucking rabbit hole and I fucked that up. I took so much steroids and growth hormone when I was in my young 20s and stuff like that, and I built that house on sand, and then it was the fucking earthquake of business and miscarriages with my partner, and then you're standing in the fucking rubble and you need to go, fuck, I built this fucking house wrong. And then,
brother,
and also being around people like yourself and first responders, where I'm like, oh shit, the true men, the true women, the true heroes out there. The physical thing wasn't what they were doing. The physical thing was there, but actually it was the million great decisions they made. It was the moral compass that they had. That's what made them a great person. So I had to fumble around in the rubble and start rebuilding that. And that was like fucking 8 years ago. And that was a harsh fucking lesson to learn. And it cost me friends and partners and members of family. And yeah, that's why when I see so many people just thinking about the superficial, just trying to look strong or look stoic and all this. That's the fucking bullshit. That's the poison. Don't be drinking from that.
Yes, yes. Be careful, young men and women. Be careful of the gimmicks and the shortcuts, because in life, in real life, in warrior life, in community life, in proper man, proper woman, proper leader life, the drive must come from deep inside, and the shortcuts do not work. We say in Recon, the easy way is the dead way. When you start cutting corners in war, people will die. And
we have it all the time. Every time I cover, we do a lot of operational debriefs on here, and it's always starts with 3 or 4 small mistakes, literally little things that happened at the station, the tiny mistakes. And then when it comes to it, somebody dies. And it's been that accumulation of lack of discipline.
Yes. And possibly underneath the mistakes and the mishaps at the core is the lack of alignment of physical, spiritual, and emotional purpose to what one's task is and what one's life's purpose is. When you really start aligning that, it starts becoming easier and easier. By the way, after I accepted I needed help, and then I started accepting that God created me for a good reason. Now, it still took me years to pray. I only started praying, brother, maybe a year ago, because of that hard life. And I imagine all that freaking killing and combat and suffering and savagery that I've been involved in the Middle East, where all of our Bible stories and all the cradle of civilization, where modern thought was created, and it was still absolutely a nightmare and a hellscape. I think that affected me to want to ever pray, because I never want anything for myself. Maybe that's the real thing. I got deeper into it. Why don't I want peace? Why don't I want forgiveness? I don't want peace and forgiveness, and that's why I don't pray, because I hate myself for not being even more courageous, or I hate myself for my mistakes. I hate myself that I used to be a team leader and loved and respected and dangerous, and now I'm not. I can't even have the emotional strength to get out of bed. I hate myself. So I've been carrying that around. And I just, there's miracles that happen every day. And I recognize everything in my life has been a miracle. People have been shooting and trying to kill me. I was abused when I was a child in the boys' home. And after I was abused the first time, the second time, because I was wrestling, and I was the undefeated wrestler at freaking 95 pounds. I was 95 pounds, undefeated in Nebraska, lifting weights every day. The next time that boy came to my fucking bed, I fucking fought. And then the next time he tried to catch me out on the stoop and he beat me up really bad, I was able to grab a log from the firewood, because it's snowing out there, and I hit him in the knee, and then I swung it, and so I was able to be brave, and I had to remember, Rudy, that's you. You've been brave before. You've had nothing before and chose bravery, and that meant discipline. That mean and I started remembering that I'm worth it, and that I've always had miracles happening to me, always. And I'm not going to disrespect all the miracles and love and beautiful challenges and very insightful setbacks, as well as the success. I'm not going to disrespect it. I'm not going to disrespect it and slide backwards. I'm going to keep going forwards.
Man, I love that. Before we close, I've still got 1,000 things I want to ask you. I want to be super.
I'll come back on again, brother. I'll come back on again.
I wanted to ask you just quickly around leadership, because you spoke so passionate when we're out there, and like only some of it made it onto the end show. And I felt remiss that more of the things you spoke about didn't get shared. And in the world that we live in now, I wanted to ask you about, what needs to change, or what do we need to remember, and what do great leaders need to be doing to evolve and face the challenges that we face today in our military, in our first responder community, or even just in community in general? Is there any aspects? I mean, you've worked with so many great leaderships and you've developed so much great leadership ability yourself. From the way you sit and the people you engage with, what are those things that we need to remember or change or evolve?
We leaders and everybody out there as a potential leader, we must know the gravitas and the responsibility to being an actualized human being is that we must make ourselves the best to get through life making other people their best. So whatever you got to do in your own house, and I mean your spiritual house, to clearly define for yourself what is right and what is wrong, whatever you got to do, you make that call and create your left and right lateral limits of what is right and what is wrong, and you walk that path, brother. And you walk that path, and you have to courageously stand up sometimes when it's not popular. Utilize your intelligence and your understanding, diplomacy even, to stand in truth.
To stand in truth. That is it.
Villainizing.
That's powerful.
Yes. Stand in truth, brother. And we pursue the truth. And that is why this whole thing with the transgender competing in women's sports, that's wrong. We must tell the truth. We're in the first world of modern thought, where for the first time in human history, we have human rights. And we must remember that we have to stand in that truth. And there are places in the world right now, like China, North Korea, in Congo, where there's no human rights at all, and people are not valued at all. We must protect people by staying in truth. We need to be mindful and wise about where we spend our money. We need to be mindful and wise how we protect people who cannot protect themselves, and that starts with our children, and then it goes also to the inner child inside of us.
I always say that with leadership, before you can lead anybody else, you must be able to lead yourself first. And then even like those close people around you, a mom, a dad, you can be a leader just amongst two friends. It's not a position that you've got at work.
Yeah, brother.
Leadership is a behavior that exhibits itself in every aspect of life.
That's right. And it's very humbling because a leader is in school every day.
I love working with people. There's a surprise a day working with people.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, brother. Oh, Pete, this has been a great one, my man.
Man, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to be so respectful. You've been giving me over an hour and a half of your time, brother. Look, send my love to you good ladies. Send my love to everybody. And I can't wait to catch up with you again soon.
You got it, brother. And when I go to the UK, we'll get everybody together, all right?
I would love to, mate. Thank you so much, Rudy.
You got it, brother. Much love, brother.
Firefighters Podcast is put together to develop, inspire, and hopefully even motivate those individuals who have chosen to serve our communities and be part of the first responder family. It's brought to you by myself, operational firefighter Pete Wakefield. If you have enjoyed today's episode and you want to see the podcast continuing, please head over to our Patreon page where you can support the ongoing efforts of the podcast. Please hit that follow, subscribe, or rate button on whatever platform you're listening to. Please support your emergency services responders, and thank you for listening.